Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Hormone Harmony 2025. Danielle, can someone give me just a small glass of water?
Absolutely.
Sit. This is our second annual Hormone Harmony talk. Who came last year? Nice. Welcome back. I'm excited for you guys to be here. We are going to have a great time this morning. We're going to learn about some stuff that we can do to help our bodies through all stages of life. We get to hear from some fantastic women that came to this talk last year and had very big changes in their life over the last year. We did this talk November of last year. And then we're going to end today with a light cardio workout to get, after we're sitting here for about an hour and a half, to get our heart pumping, our muscles moving, get those neurotransmitters going, hormone balancing through that. So before we start officially into the content, I want to go through and do some intention and gratitude. So intention and gratitude is changes our neurology. It's a great way to start your day. It allows you to take command of your day rather than your day ruling you, and get into just the purpose of what you are going for in your day. But in this time, I would like you to, everybody close your eyes. I know you have food and stuff on your laps. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your hands resting on your knees or where they are at the moment. Your seat in the seat. Just feel your body, feel your heart pounding, your breath. And take a moment and set an intention for yourself. Think about what you would like to take from today. What questions do you have? What goals do you have for yourself? What would you like to see change over the next year? And think about that and what that looks like for you. The action that you want to take for that. What it looks like if you don't. Just be still at the moment. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose. And breathe it out through your mouth, and then open your eyes. And if you have the note paper with you and some pen, or however you want to take notes, or however you want to remember this, I encourage you to write that intention on the top of that paper, or if it's two, and go over that paper or put it in your planner and refer to it in the next 3 to 6 months and see like where that intention has changed, what have the action that you've taken towards that intention, how that worked out, what you've seen come to pass, okay? Now that our neurology is all set, let's get to it. So I want to open with our team. So as you see coming in today, our team here is magnificent. They do all of this. I don't have to put thought into it. They make it look beautiful with flowers and food and music and just the flow of everything. So who's a guest here today? Who has not been in this office before? So there's a few. Okay, so this is why I like to introduce ourselves. So these two here are kind of like the matriarchs of the clinic. They've been here since day one, practically. Well, she definitely has. She's the clinic owner's mom here. Just sets everything straight. And then we have our back office team here. They all are amazing. All very different people. Very strong in what they do here. Keep things rolling here. And then there's the doctors over there. Our mission in this clinic is to help people heal naturally. That's what we are always intending to do, whatever that looks like for a person. And of course, we're starting with spines because our spines are, without your spines, you'd honestly just be a lump of flesh on the floor. So our spines are very powerful. I won't get too far into that, but it houses our central nervous system, and it's as important in getting checked as it is your teeth are, right? So we want people to heal naturally without unnecessary medications, without the guesswork, by focusing on the root cause and the power of the nervous system. That is the master system of your body. What?
Raise your voice.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
From the front desk to the adjusting bays, is that better? Stacy,
Yeah.
can you hear me? Okay. Every one of us is here to guide you toward long-term healing and a healthier life. So when it comes to women, there's, the statistics are out there that 80% of women experience hormone to 247 million women are affected by PCOS. Now, I wanted to look that up and see what that looked like, and that's pretty much the whole female population of Mexico and Indonesia, okay? So that's a lot of women that are being affected by PCOS, which is becoming more and more common now than it ever has before. And so there's reasons for that. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. And 14% of pill users take oral contraceptives solely for non-contraceptive purposes. And it's to either manage irregular periods, menstrual pain, acne, or simply like get a cycle on a more of a rhythm, so you don't have to guess, rather than to prevent pregnancy. And then, so historically, research has been not there for women. It's unrepresented. It is exclusion from the research in the past up until maybe the 90s. The research was done on men's bodies and then transferred into treatment of everybody. Okay, and that's on women. And we're not the same as a man's bodies. We're very, 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 very different and complex. And that's okay. It's great. There's reasons for it, but we can't be treated the same as men. Many diagnostic standards and treatments were developed for the male physiology. And this research and how it's been done, it affects our understanding of how hormones, metabolism, how we perceive pain because we perceive it differently, our mental health, and if it's not understood, how are they able to treat us well? Okay, how are they able to treat us well? They're not. It's not understood. It is just based on what Stacy Sims, she calls it bro research. It's on the men's bodies. For example, heart attacks and symptoms are different in women, but are based on male patterns. And approximately 50% of women are likely to be misdiagnosed after a heart attack because it represented much differently than a man's did. Now, they're getting much better about that, much better, but it's still there. And research has proven to control women's transitional times rather than support our transitional times. Our transitional times are puberty, pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, menopause. So that's like all these stages that we go through, and our hormones fluctuate according to what they need to do for those transitional times. And men are just humdrumming along with the testosterone that is just an even playing field all the time, okay? All the time. And our hormones are not like that.
Not fair.
So, yeah. So this is where I like to start. It is so important because our hormones there is a hormone hierarchy, okay? Our hormone fluctuates through normal parts of life, but they also alter our metabolism, our stress response, our pain, our sensitivity, or ignoring this limits accuracy of women's health data. So I want to talk about this hormone hierarchy. Now, oxytocin at the top of this. So this hierarchy is most important down. Like you'll see some pyramids where the most important is at the bottom of the base. This is most important down, okay? So oxytocin, well, let's back up. So think of your hormones as a chain of command. At the top you have survival hormones. Our survival hormones are oxytocin, cortisol, and insulin, okay? Those are what we need to survive. When we're thriving and we're safe and we're ready to start a family, that's where our sex hormones come in, okay? Now, if we're always in a survival mode, we can never have our sex hormones fluctuating and moving through our bodies and supporting our bodies the way they should, okay? So, your body can focus on your sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone to influence your fertility, your mood, and your energy. Cortisol, oxytocin, insulin are for your survival, okay? So you think about these three and how they regulate. So the oxytocin is the most powerful one when it's flowing in our body. And the reason that is because if we have this, all of this is going to be in control and where they're supposed to be playing out in the field. When we have oxytocin, when oxytocin is flowing through your system, cortisol cannot come up. It can't because of the pathways that these take through the body. So oxytocin is a queen bee, but how many people have oxytocin flowing through their body every single day? It's not as much as we should. It's a feel-good connection hormone. It's released through bonding, connection, touch, laughter, deep conversation, time with loved ones, prayer, meditation, adventure, being outside, petting your dog, and intimacy. You should have about 8 hugs a day. That releases oxytocin, right? But if you think about your day, how often are you getting oxytocin release? How often are you getting some snuggles or a hug or connection with your girlfriends? It's not as much as it should be. Now, oxytocin was initially referred to as the bonding hormone when it was initially discovered in 1906. They thought it was only, they saw floods of it come into the mom's body when she delivered her baby, and they thought that that was where it landed and where it stayed. But for 66 years, scientists thought that that was the main job, is the bonding. And then they discovered it was also has a metabolic effect, okay? So here, some examples of bonding and how powerful they are. But here's the really cool thing is oxytocin being the most influential hormone. And I just said it has a metabolic effect. So when you have oxytocin in your body, you're metabolically healthy. It's the most influential, that's why it's at the top. Surges of oxytocin will increase glucose uptake, okay? Your fat cells will naturally break down the way they're supposed to. Your insulin resistance decreases, and it makes fasting easier. And we're gonna talk a lot about fasting because it's a very, very, very powerful lifestyle. I don't like to use the word hack, but lifestyle hack that people can do to help their body with hormone balancing, weight loss, brain health, all the things. So it brings you into metabolic flexibility. And what the research shows, is that oxytocin is a big deal. Now, I didn't put this in here, but they're doing a lot of research with like autism and oxytocin, and the results are pretty profound. Really cool results on how, if they're, depending on where they're at the spectrum, if they're given oxytocin, they're able to improve their social skills, notice social signs to where they can function better in society with doing oxytocin. Yes, ma'am.
So can oxytocin be a supplement? You said when they're given oxytocin.
Well, these are in researches. I think they're spraying oxytocin up their nose. I don't know of an oxytocin supplement right now, but anytime you're here, come to me, I'll give you a hug, and that's in the supplement.
Free hugs. That's 1 of 8 a day.
1 of 8, I'll give you 3 while you're here.
No extra charge on the bill.
Oh man, where am I? Okay, so there was a study done on mice that found that deficiencies in oxytocin signaling led to obesity despite their normal food intake. So they weren't eating anymore, they just had such low oxytocin levels that they gained weight, okay? A human study showed that oxytocin concentration in blood of obese individuals with diabetes significantly lowered, okay? And in that same study, oxytocin's involvement in the body system was a key in pathogenesis forming the disease, specifically cardiac disease and metabolic disease. So they saw that these factors affected this person getting these diseases or suffering from them, and it was a key player in that. So they gave these individuals the oxytocin, and the results were significant weight loss due to significant improvement in insulin sensitivity, okay? So it's very important, oxytocin, because it is the connection. The solution right here, there's your supplement. It's just like connection and doing what you can to raise your oxytocin levels. Because we're neurochemical beings, like everything that happens in our body is chemical reactions from our central nervous system telling our body to do, okay? So oxytocin, cortisol, insulin, all the stuff that we're about to do is the neurochemical pathways, and we're ruled by them. And if not at healthy levels, then we suffer, with the symptoms that we all tend to feel throughout life as years pass by of significant decreased oxytocin, significant insulin resistance, and this leads into metabolic disease, which can lead into heart disease, which leads to diabetes. So you can see how it's just this snowball effect of how something as simple as your hormone balancing, and it's okay. So not as simple, right? Because we try to get them balanced, and it's not, we don't get cancers, but it is what we're going to talk about today. And honestly, a hormone talk could be 3 weeks long with how complex it can be. But some of these tools I want to give you today is to help you start with a foundation that will absolutely impact you, and there's no downside to what we're going to talk about. None. Except for your body tricking you into thinking you're starving, but you're not. We'll talk about that soon in a minute. But this is why we're passionate about what we do. We here positively impact the central nervous system. And honestly, if you've gotten adjusted, you get oxytocin surges from that. So look, I'll give you 3 hugs and an adjustment. Of course, oxytocin here.
So we have to hug everyone in that's in here.
When oxytocin is released from the brain, it goes to 4 main areas of the body where you have the receptor sites for these oxytocin chemical molecules flowing through your body. It's skeletal muscle, that's that working out. That's what brings that into your muscle. Liver, which is your glucose organ. Your pancreas, which has to do with your insulin. And the adipose tissue, which is your fat cells. Okay? So it makes sense that the results of these studies that I spoke of before, improved glucose uptake, that's your liver. Fat cell breakdown. More insulin sensitivity, that's your pancreas. And fasting, why that affects those organs and why you get the results that, the positive results from the oxytocin go into those cell receptors and then interacting with those areas of the body. So remember, connection, oxytocin, that is the mama bear, all right? So when we talk about, we're gonna go now to cortisol. Let's go back here. Cortisol. So when oxytocin is not flowing and we're having a hard time, we're stressed, anything of those, we are releasing the cortisol. This right here is the cortisol pathway. And I got into the weeds of this last year. I'm gonna keep it very simple. HPA axis stands for hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. Now, with cortisol, we want to make sure that we think of it in a positive way. Cortisol is very much needed. It's what we're supposed to have going to our tissues when we need energy. It's very important for us to function throughout our day, to be awake, aware, focused. Our atmosphere today always demands it. So we are going into hypercortisol days of how just it's nonstop. And to that, I mean, we see it all the time. Moms come in here from a tired day. They wake up, they get the kids ready, they get them to school, they get them to eat breakfast, they pack their lunch, they take them to school. If they work, they go to work, then they go to pick them up, then there's dinner. And then these kids play like 5 sports. I mean, that's just an example of how that's constant cortisol influx throughout the day. Us older women, we're at a stage where we can slow down if we want and take care of ourselves and we can focus on ourselves, but then we have all this perceived time. We're like, we can do 1,000 things, I can do it all, there's so much I want to do, and then that brings in the cortisol if you pack your plate too much. So there's that balance there. But here's the thing. So we have cortisol, and positive or negative, it impacts your sleep, it impacts your immune system, and overall your well-being. So not just in the moment, but long-term. So if you're under that high stress environment every single day, it is impacting your body and does manifest later in something else, if nothing is done. So there's levels of cortisol at different times of the day, and it's honestly when we learn how to manage the cortisol, and it's a powerful lever to our health when we can manage our cortisol, okay? A lot of times people will say, just reduce stress. Well, that's a lot of times it's easier said than done. With stress, it's managing it. It's how your body's perceiving that stress. So for example, anytime I do a talk like this, I get very stressed out. All the things flowing through my head. I went to my friend's chiropractic office because they have an HRV. I'll learn about it, but she did it on me, and I was like, oh my gosh, man, HRV, heart rate variability is HRV, and that tells you exactly like where you are in your nervous system. Are you in fight or flight, or are you in rest and digest? And mine was like in the green zone, which is good. I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm stressed out, but my body's acclimated to the stress in a positive way. It's not letting it harm whatever it could in my body over time. So that's just an example of managing stress. Like as you have these healthy habits to manage stress, your body can navigate that. So here's the thing, we have our brain, and this is the pathway. So our brain has the hypothalamus talks to the anterior pituitary talks to this adrenal gland right here. That's the function here above our kidneys. And when the brain perceives stress, it says, hypothalamus, release this hormone. I'm not gonna get into like all the names of it, to the anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary says, yeah, okay, and then sends it to the adrenal gland. And then it releases cortisol. And it's a negative feedback loop. So what's supposed to happen is when the cortisol is released, it's supposed to come back up, signal to the brain that's been released, we're good, let's turn it off now. But with how busy we are and all the stuff we deal with, generally, you keep perceiving that stress. And so this loop does not have the negative part of it, it just keeps going through and releasing the cortisol into the body and the tissues and wreaks havoc eventually on everything that we're trying to manage to be healthy. Now, properly functioning cortisol works closely with our circadian rhythm, okay? And that's right here. Our circadian rhythm is our 24-hour light and dark cycle. Now, there's 4 phases to the circadian rhythm, okay? It is pre-dawn, so pre-dawn is gonna be out here. Because this is gonna be the morning surge. So pre-dawn's out here. And then that is your lowest levels. Okay, this is gonna be in the middle of the night. It is hours before awakening. Your HPA axis is at rest. So this is where your cortisol, that whole pathway that we just looked at, it's not supposed to be doing anything, okay? This pre-dawn is around 2 to 4 a.m. and it's necessary for restoration, okay? This is the lowest point of cortisol in the 24-hour cycle. And then you go to phase 2, which is the morning surge. Boom, morning surge right here. That's what wakes you up. I don't even need an alarm anymore. My body wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning because that's my morning surge, even if I'm on vacation or want to sleep in a little bit. That's the morning surge. It's called a cortisol awakening response, okay? So your cortisol increases rapidly to wake you up, to get the brain ready for the day. It's the most dynamic part of the cycle. And that means that there's a few things that we're gonna talk about that you can help with that surge and then the decline after that. So it's dynamic. And this begins just before waking, around 30 to 45 minutes before you wake up. So since I wake up at 5, it's gonna be starting at 4:15, 4:30. So it starts bringing that chemical into your body, and eventually your brain gets enough of it to wake you up into the morning. Now phase 3 is the daytime decline. So that's this part right here. So this is your morning surge, and over the day, it declines. Now this is supposed to be a gradual decline. You're not supposed to plummet at lunchtime or at 1 or 2. It's supposed to come up and then gradually come down. More gradual than this is even showing, and then level out as you get into your night, okay? It follows your morning peak. Your cortisol levels gradually decline throughout the day. It's the longest phase and is necessary for transitioning the body toward rest and sleep from all the activity of the day. So that's from the morning peak to afternoon, early evening is how long that phase 3 is. And then you have phase 4, which is the nighttime and wind down. Cortisol levels, they're low, which is essential for initiating your sleep cycle, allowing the body to enter a restful state, okay? Lowest points from midnight to 2 a.m. Now, this nighttime one, phase 4, the wind down, what do you think is the main thing that interferes with this phase?
Phone usage or
Screen
screen time.
Overthinking, who said that? That happens, yes. We'll get into that, but yes, screen time. And I've been guilty of this for myself in the past, but that will absolutely mess up your brain chemicals, your cortisol. It is thinking that it needs to wake up. It's not getting into the restful sleep that it needs. So that is something to think about, especially if you're not getting restful sleep, you're waking up in the middle of the night, or you can go to sleep. You're like, I sleep fine, I fall right asleep to my screen. Well, you're gonna end up most likely waking up or having a hard time in the morning with waking up after that. So with cortisol in your sleep cycle, that's why it's important that you get the amount of sleep that you need throughout the night. So if you sleep 6 hours or less, yes ma'am.
Is that, I don't know if it's the same, is it gonna be the cortisol levels affecting the same whether it's phone, TV, computer? Is it consistent with any type of screen
Yes.
type of life?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I used to think of it as my wind down time. This was a while ago, but I was like, I took that time for myself. But I just transitioned into, I also like to read, so I just use that as a reading time on my book to transition down and allow my brain to go into that. But the screens they're terrible for regulating your hormones and trying to, especially with the cortisol. Now, if you find yourself, and this is with cortisol levels, this is not for every single person that has trouble sleeping, because there's many things that can affect it. But essentially, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're sleeping 6 hours or less a night, you do not get that morning surge, or it's very dampened. It's not going to be up and high the way you need it to be to get up and be like, what's today bringing me? If you sleep 7 hours, you get a portion of that morning surge. If you sleep 8 or more hours, you're gonna get that full surge of cortisol that you need in the morning to wake you up. So cortisol has its place. It's great benefits for our body. We just need to figure out how to leverage the cortisol and manage the stress of the day, especially as you're going into those other phase 3 and phase 4 phases of your cortisol cycle. Okay? So maintaining that healthy curve. Along with getting adequate sleep for cortisol levels, our body needs to conserve energy. So it's also important that cortisol levels are low because our body is energy efficient. It wants to be energy efficient. So it's conserving energy, it's bringing everything down. When you're bringing your energy down and you're allowing your cortisol levels to lower, your body is able to go into that rest state. And what happens at that rest state is very important, is your body is releasing growth hormone. And growth hormone significantly decreases in how much it releases in our bodies at age 30. Well, that's not even that old. It significantly decreases. But when we're giving our body all the advantage we can, when our cortisol levels are flattened out when we're sleeping, our body's able to regenerate, rest, but release growth hormone. And growth hormone helps with repairs. It helps maintain our body, our structure, our muscles. It helps maintain tissue, our metabolism. All of that's very important when we sleep as well, because we're conserving energy. So those cells are able to do the cleanup work that they need to do when you're sleeping. Okay. Now, here's some ways to manage your cortisol levels throughout the day. So these are some ways that are holistic, healthy, easy to do, but have huge impact on your cortisol phases over time the more you do it, okay? And that first one is morning light. I cannot stress to you enough, and I know we're in the darker times, so I think we get morning light at 7 now or something like that. So, God put seasons here for a reason. It's okay though, just look outside and try to get some sunlight at 7. You don't have to go on long walks or anything if you can't, but morning light is very powerful. And it's a brain's secret weapon for better days and good days. It's very powerful. So there's lots of research behind it. People, if anybody follows Andrew Huberman, he talks about it all the time. All those podcasters on health talk about it all the time. It's just very well researched and is Andrew who? have for Andrew Huberman. He's a science guy, he's great. But when you come into that morning sunlight, so you wanna look towards the sun, you don't have to look at the sun. The sun works as a master conductor as it's coming in through your eyes, okay? So you're thinking about the conductor with the orchestra, you know, he's directing everything. So it is orchestrating a complex symphony of brain chemicals. And this is why it's so important, because you're starting your day off perfectly well when you can do this. The bright rays will reach your retina, and it triggers a cascade of biological events, okay? It sets your internal clock, and then the retina cells send direct signals to your brain, which is the master timekeeper. So we have a certain area in our brain that keeps time for us. It's called suprachiasmatic nucleus, but it is perfectly in there, and that's its job. And it will then suppress melatonin, which is the sleep chemical hormone that helps you sleep at night. So it suppresses that melatonin so you don't feel groggy, you're able to wake up quicker in the morning, and it boosts your cortisol, which is your energy hormone. And that is naturally aligning you with your day and night cycle. So morning light, very important. Also, it increases your serotonin, the brain's natural mood enhancer, okay? So morning light is, it's not a hack, it's what we should be doing anyway, because it's good for our health. Yes, ma'am?
Is it appropriate to ask a question right now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so you're talking about the light reaching our retinas and all that.
Mhm.
I've read where we really shouldn't wear sunglasses.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
So we shouldn't, because it tricks our brain into thinking it's a different time of day than it is. But I will put this caveat in there, okay? So if you're out in nature, walking on a trail, don't put on sunglasses. You know, the sunlight's gonna come in and do its job. But I find when I am driving on the freeway in the city, and there's a ton of cars around me, and there's light bouncing off these cars from the buildings around me, off the pavement, it is all just very neurologically fatiguing. So if you're traveling and it's daytime, you know, feel free to put that on, because I feel a huge difference when I put those sunglasses on and how it feels in my brain and in my eyes. But yes, you're correct. Essentially, we shouldn't put on sunglasses and wear them all the time when it's sunny outside. So when I take my dog on a walk in the morning, I don't wear sunglasses, even if the sun's, and it does, it shines straight in my face. So there's that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what baseball caps are for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, I don't wear
Used to.
sunglasses
If you
either.
don't, yeah, if you really have a hard time with it.
Gotten used to going
Curious, when
without
you're
it.
talking about 8 times a day, does it count if I hug myself?
Yeah.
It does?
Just make sure you're loving yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously, say hug your inner child.
Yeah. Oh yeah, self-love, big
Yeah.
time, for sure.
So how long should the morning light, I mean, is there a,
Couple minutes.
just a few minutes?
Yeah, you'll hear a range of things, but I do it in anywhere from a couple minutes, and the days that we don't have like morning shift here, I take my dog on a walk, that's 20 minutes, so, but that 5 minutes, 3 minutes really helps me out as well in the morning. Morning light also sharpens our mental focus, improves our memory retention, boosts our natural energy levels, and just makes healthy patterns. Now, the next one is hydration, and like I used to be the first one to be like, don't talk to me about water, I know I need to drink it, it's great, but it's honestly one of the most underrated health protocols. Like I feel like we really take it for granted, and I can't speak for you all, but I think I do. So taking your hydration for granted. But when you look at the literature on hydration, the effects of even mild hydration, and that means when you're feeling thirsty, that is mild hydration, affect your cognitive, your physical, your organ, and basic cellular function. So no, they're not under like super distress, but it is starting to set in. So that's why hydration is so important. Our brain needs a lot of water. So all of that suffers mildly when we're even mildly dehydrated. So drinking water, and a hack for that is when you wake up, who's coffee drinkers in here? Okay, me too, I love coffee, it's very tasty, good stuff. But when you wake up and you are thirsty in the morning, you would try to drink water before you drink your coffee. And that doesn't only hydrate you, but it wakes up your digestive system, it catapults your metabolism for the day, and gets things going in that way rather than taking in the coffee first before anything else. Okay, 16 to 32 ounces in the morning makes a big difference in your overall hydration throughout the day. And then a caffeine, and this is especially important for people who are wired but, oh, where was that slide right here? Wired but tired, always wired in here. Delaying the caffeine intake, if that person drinks coffee, will help them to manage their cortisol. Now, people that live in these dysfunctional forms of their cortisol patterns, they typically quit doing stuff such as delaying coffee and all that because it takes a while for your system to regulate itself coming out of these fight or flight situations. But delaying coffee in the morning, so that means delaying it by 60 to 90 minutes after waking up. So you wake up, you drink your water, do whatever routine you do in the morning, and then an hour to an hour and a half later, drink your coffee, okay? Now, the other thing that this does right here is when you delay your coffee intake, this helps this curve kind of flatten out on its way down here. So it makes it even more gradual than it already is, which will help for a person that suffers from the afternoon slump. So if you get really tired in the afternoon at 2 or 3, anywhere from lunchtime to a couple hours after that, delaying your coffee intake helps you stay more awake with that gradual curve being more gradual. Now, of course, that can also be from eating a very terrible lunch and you're going into that, what do they call it, food coma? Food coma. So that's something to keep in your mind, but those are ways to be able to use your cortisol surges throughout the day to your advantage, okay? Now, those people that are tired but wired and living in those like states of always like moving, a lot of times, and I know them personally, a lot of times they don't even know they're living there. That's completely normal for them until it's like someone like me, I'm like, you live in a state of stress, you don't even know you are, and this is why X, Y, and Z of what you're experiencing. But they typically will need to take their nighttime routine very seriously, turn off all the lights in their house, like at freaking 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and start just regulating their nervous system the last 5 hours of their night until they go to bed. Because it's severely harming their health by staying in that, and then I know they're not getting good sleep. So someone like that would just, that's something to keep in mind with getting that nighttime routine. Now, with cortisol and stress, there's one other thing that is a wonderful thing. It's called a physiological sigh. Has anybody heard of that?
What?
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Cameron did it in one of his talks, right? I think last year or the year before. And so if you feel yourself stressed out and your heart's pounding and you need to get control so that you're not living in that fight or flight moment throughout the day, a physiological sigh it helps manage your stress in the moment. And you'll notice like babies do it, little infants will do it when they're crying. That's their physiological sigh. They're trying to regulate their nervous system. So I'm gonna show you what it looks like. So a physiological sigh is you breathe in through your nose to fill your lungs, and then once you feel your lungs are full, you take in a little more breath, and then you breathe it out in your mouth. So it looks like this, goes. It looks funny, but it's very powerful. So I want you guys to try it. So breathe in through your nose, breathe in, fill your lungs, and then suck it, yep, and then blow out like you're blowing through a straw. And you can feel it immediately. Who felt that difference? So that is something that will help you manage stress in the moment. And I just want to share that with you guys. So
Lowers your heart rate.
it lowers your heart rate, it brings your brain waves down, it just brings it's nervous system regulation is what it is. It's regulating your nervous system, which affects your heart rate, your digestion, so on and so forth. Okay, now we're gonna get into the hormones, the insulin and the sex hormones, okay? where we feel safe. Where we are at when our cortisol and our oxytocin are at good levels in our body. If oxytocin is flowing, cortisol is managed, insulin is down, healthy levels, then our sex hormones are able to be released and function healthily. Now, I jumped ahead. So this slide right here, this shows you what chronic stress and low oxytocin levels will do to your sex hormones, okay? So it affects them, it affects fertility, your hypothalamus it's suppressed. Chronic stress it's not able to release the hormone that goes into the sex organs to be able to start with even maturing an egg for implantation. And without that, the pulses to the pituitary stop sending signals. So the brain, it's the same pathway as the cortisol, but instead of going to the adrenal gland, it's going to your sex hormones. So you can see why, if you're super stressed out and that same pathway is not able to function to the sex hormones. Okay, so there's an ebb and flow of our hormones, and when our sex hormones need to be healthy and active, the cortisol pathway has to be managed and low. So if this is high, our hypothalamus is doing this job over here to the pituitary, and so this right here is the hormone that it's gonadotropin releasing hormone, okay? But this is suppressed, and then these are suppressed. And without these, the follicle stimulating hormone, the luteinizing hormone, our ovaries are not able to do what they need to do, and then our cycles are messed up, our estrogen's messed up, our progesterone's messed up. It's all ovarian disruption. That's what that is. When that safety system is not able to feel safe enough to work in its proper form. Now, so they both use that loop. It involves both the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, and they both cannot use it at the same time. So think of your hypothalamus as the matriarch. The hypothalamus is right there in the brain. It is like, it's got grandma energy. So the hypothalamus is always like looking at the body. It's that time to release an egg. Is it safe? Are we able to mature an egg safely? Does this person feel safe enough to be able to fertilize an egg if that's the case and that's what the person wants? Is it safe for pregnancy? Is it safe for ovulation? It's looking for hydration. It's looking for calm. It's looking for oxytocin, nutrition, all the things that help your body be able to be ready to ovulate. Okay? So the pituitary releases the follicle stimulating hormone. Okay? So when the gonadotropin releasing hormone goes into the pituitary gland, the pituitary gland releases follicle stimulating hormone first. That travels to the ovary. The ovary stimulates a tiny little follicle to mature. Okay, starts to mature and develop. And this is called the follicular phase. And I think the phases are right there. Okay? It is about 7 to 10 days. And as the follicle matures, it produces estrogen. So estrogen here, it goes back up. Okay, estrogen goes into the bloodstream. It travels back up to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus was like, grandma energy again. Is it safe? Is everything going well? Is this person got nutrition? Are they hydrated? And then they will start with the ovulation, which is 3 to 4 days. Okay, so estrogen peaks just with ovulation. So that's where that estrogen peak is over there. So the hypothalamus releases the GnRH again. Pituitary releases the luteinizing hormone now. That's a luteal phase to mature the ovum. And then the ovum breaks out of the follicle, which is still an ovary, so it starts to break out into the ovary and starts a mission of forming the corpus luteum, which is the lining of the cervix. And that produces progesterone. And this is when the estrogen is declining and it's helping progesterone build the endometrial lining for possible implantation. So if fertilization doesn't happen, the progesterone decreases. increases, the cervix opens up, the lining is shed 4 to 7 days, and the whole process starts again. And that is a normal cycle, okay, in a nutshell. What is not normal is when a person experiences cycles such as hormonal cramping, PCOS, vomiting, nausea, excessive bleeding, and the list can go on. And 90% of this is due to either insulin resistance or hormone imbalance, gut imbalance, or poor eating. And then a lot of this can lead into autoimmune issues. The downside to this is that most people go to doctors with this stuff and they're given birth control, or they're given some kind of medication to help with the symptoms when the root cause is something else that's underlying in one of those things that I just mentioned. So by the time some of these show up, as we say here all the time, symptoms are the last things to show up. So something's been going on in the body for a long time. It's just a matter of figuring out where that's at. And that's why women, it is an up and down journey with health and trying to figure all of this out, because it's not always the same thing, and it's all treated the same way, okay? So symptoms and diagnoses such as PCOS, endometriosis, infertility, cysts and fibroids on the body, and it's already been in distress for a long time. That's the end result of what's been going on, all that stuff, okay? So one of the issues is estrogen mimickers. So as time goes on, as decades go on, okay, the estrogen mimickers, the xenoestrogen, all of this stuff is flooding everything that we interact with, our clothes, our underwear, our air, stuff we eat, stuff we drink. And this is a main reason why there's so many issues with hormones at a younger age. Estrogen mimickers, and here's the problem, okay? Estrogen mimickers bond to estrogen receptors in our body. So we have estrogen receptors in our body's tissues that our estrogen is supposed to flow into our blood system and bind to, but when we're exposed to these xenoestrogens, those come in, bind to our estrogen receptors, and keep our estrogen from bonding to those receptors, okay? So we have estrogen receptors on our brain, our sex organs, our liver, our bone, our nervous system, and they block our body's natural estrogen from binding to these receptors. They disrupt the body's natural or normal hormone functions, and it causes issues in health. It causes issues in our fertility. And these are impacting men as well, okay? They're causing issues with our periods. And if allowed to get out of control, which it is, it can cross the fetal placental barrier and alter gene expression at the embryonic nervous system. As an embryo develops, the nervous system is the very first thing that develops, the very first thing. It's pretty cool to see. Which is the first system. But you can see here, recent studies show that 100% of the placentas dissected contain plastics. This doesn't just affect us, it affects our offspring and our offspring's offspring. So that's how these are microplastics. And in these pictures here, it shows where like a majority of them are. It's in artificial food and dyes, laundry, plastic water bottles, cosmetics. And we can't control what companies use to make their products, but we can definitely control what we put in our mouth and on our skin. It makes a big deal, and just figuring that out, and I'm gonna tell you right now, that journey is it can be a frustrating one because there's a lot of greenwashing, but it can highly impact as you go on that journey to figure out the cleanest way to live and keep those microplastics, those xenoestrogens, those estrogen mimickers out of your body. Okay, now PCOS there's no known single cause, and I'm talking about this because this is one of the main things that I see a lot of young women being diagnosed with, and they're on a slew of medications, and it doesn't help them get better, and they're young, they're in high school, and it just rips my heart apart to see this, and I just want, there's something to be done. We're gonna get that in a minute, but there's no known cause. The result is a perfect storm. So by the time you're diagnosed, which it takes some time with PCOS, there's a perfect storm going on in your body. There's a million different symptoms going on, and you can't even pinpoint one medication, so you end up on 3 or 4. The perfect storm is the convergence of underlying conditions and triggers that converge, form, and exacerbate the syndromes, diverse syndromes. Xenoestrogens are not the sole cause, but they're heavily connected to this PCOS diagnosis and the symptoms that arise through your body. And it's much more common than it ever used to be. So with PCOS, you end up getting high testosterone levels, it inhibits ovulation, the follicles try very hard to produce an egg, but it's constant distress. And any additional stress or inflammation, so your body's already under this tremendous amount of stress, and then any additional stress like testing or, competition, that exacerbates the inflammation and it causes pain. And it's this inflammatory cycle, okay? It takes an average of seeing 3 or more doctors to obtain this diagnosis. 20% of women are diagnosed with it now. 16% are not satisfied with the information they receive, and it's ultimately rooted in inflammation, gut dysbiosis, elevated androgens, and insulin dysregulation. PCOS in the literature is a, did you raise your hand? Oh, no.
Sorry, I was getting my hair
It's
on.
okay. As an autophagy problem, which we're gonna get into what that means if you don't know, but it leads to diabetes, infertility, heart disease, high cholesterol, fatty liver disease if left untreated, and that means like lifestyle changes to make it better, not being treated with medication. I will tell you, doctors commonly will harp on weight loss, and I wanna make it very clear that weight is not the cause of PCOS. It's not. PCOS causes weight gain for people that have it. And so when they're told to get like bariatric surgery or whatever, it really burns me up, because that is not the solution. Like, yeah, they might lose weight, but that is not gonna help them figure out what's going on at that root cause level for their PCOS. It just really pisses me off.
Those darn
So-
doctors.
We're gonna talk about fasting as far as it pertains to PCOS. In 2021, a study of 15 women on an 8-hour time restricted feeding. So that means like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. was their eating window, or 10 to 6, okay? That they saw improved menstruation, they saw improved weight loss, decreased inflammation, decreased insulin levels, and those are all the hallmarks for PCOS. So just like, of all the things that the PCOS causes, time restricted feeding can take care of a lot of that on a consistent basis. Because what is PCOS treated with? They end up on birth control. Okay, they're birth control, metformin. They're on anti-androgens, which is spironolactone. Okay, and then they are recommended to lose weight, and then they can recommend sometimes to do what's called ovarian drilling. Has anybody heard of that? Like drill holes in the ovaries to hopefully like promote mature follicles to be released. That's not gonna work. So it's just trying to trick the body, but the body's not stupid. But PCOS can absolutely be managed with lifestyle changes. There's been many studies to show it. Mindy Peltz talks about it in her book. Last year we gave away this book called Fast Like a Girl. A lot of my research is off of that book for this talk. It's a very powerful book. Fast Like a Girl by Mindy Peltz, if you like to read. And it's very easy to read. She gives you very clear things to, yes, Becky is holding it up. It's a very good book. But she talks about how it can be managed with lifestyle changes. There's study after study to show that it helps. And if you know someone with PCOS or yourself has it, the most powerful holistic approach is nutrition and fasting. If you do decide to do that, it's going to be 0 sugar. So this is probably the strictest a person has to be if they are doing time restricted feeding or fasting, because the sugars will cause absolute chaos and a disease that you're already trying to combat. No refined carbs, so they're enemy. But in this research, it says the impact of intermittent fasting on fertility. It's a focus on PCOS, and the outcomes of a systematic review. So they looked at 10 years of research. The inclusion criteria targeted primary research evaluating the effects of intermittent fasting. That's what IF is gonna stand for in these slides, is intermittent fasting on reproductive outcomes, menstrual irregularities, and metabolic parameters in the women. So time-restricted feeding interventions led to significant improvements in menstrual regularity. They're put on birth control to regulate their menstrual, so this can do that, with 33 to 40% of participants reporting normalized cycles, reductions in total testosterone, and then all these fancy words right here, which is, okay, time-restricted feeding also improved in insulin sensitivity, reduced body weight, decreased inflammatory markers, all of which continue to enhance reproductive outcomes. And the key outcomes included a 9% reduction in testosterone levels, 26% reduction in free androgens, which is other molecules of testosterone-like, and significant improvements in menstrual regularity. So they concluded, and this is clinical, this is from science.com, that intermittent fasting, time-restricted feeding shows potential as a non-pharmacological intervention to improve reproductive health and fertility in women with PCOS. It targets the hyperandrogenism, which is, you know, the irregular hair growth you get, hair loss on the head, but then you get it here, or just that's possible in there. Insulin resistance and menstrual irregularity. So very, very powerful research. This is just one study of many for PCOS. This is quickly just how estrogen and insulin are very closely related, okay? Estrogen dominant issues is PCOS, endometriosis, mood swings. Estrogen just doesn't like insulin. So here, if you know anybody, here's an example of a intermittent fasting, time restricted feeding schedule for someone with PCOS. And then, so day 1 is the first day of the bleed, and so you'd fast 17 hours day 1 through 5, 24 hours day 6 and 7, 8 to 10 hours, or 8 days 8 to 10 is 17-hour fast, 11 to 15 is 15 hours, so it fluctuates to take this person into decreased insulin sensitivity, increased autophagy, which we're going to talk about next, and that is a big deal. So when you have autophagy in your body, it's basically self-eating is what that means. Your body's able to heal. That's the bread and butter of what autophagy is, okay? Let me catch up. This fasting schedule allows a person's body to be in what's called the autophagia, which is the main issue with PCOS. So what is autophagy? Is this the first time anybody in here is hearing that word? Okay, yeah. So we are built very well, okay? And our body is meant to heal and clean itself. And autophagy is part of that system. Our bodies are energy efficient, and the only time we get into autophagy without fasting is when we're sleeping or in between meals. But it has to be a certain amount of time. So when we're not digesting food, our body goes into a cleanup mode. And that's autophagy, self-eating, which sounds gross and weird, but it's what our bodies are cleaning house at a cellular level. And that's what kills cancer. That's what cleans up autoimmune disease. That's what cleans up our metabolism. That's what cleans up insulin sensitivity. It is, I just can't explain how powerful this is when you can get your body into a cycle of autophagy, okay? Think of our cells as tiny factories, okay? Over time, the parts wear out, so it needs the time to rebuild and break down those dead parts, or the cells. The cells that make up our liver, the cells that make up our heart, the cells that make up our lungs, the cells that make up our muscle tissue, our ligaments, our joints. All of that needs the cycles of autophagy. So our body cleans out and breaks down those damaged cells, and this allows our energies to boost. So when we have that cleanup, our energy is able to be more efficient in our body. Our cells run smoother. It supports our brain health. It supports longevity of life. It makes space for a healthier immune system by removing malfunctioning and infected cells. So this can absolutely get rid of cancer cells. Because you've heard, like, we have cancer cells. They're just all cancer cells in an abnormal cell in our body. And when it turns into cancer is when those abnormal cells are able to replicate, autophagy, clean that crap up. So fasting is very powerful. Oh, and I also meant to mention, someone on PCOS will highly benefit from this supplement down here. It's called myo-inositol, 2,000 milligrams of D-chiroinositol. I'm taking that twice a day. This is the brand that I found that I would trust because of how clean they are, if anybody's interested in that. It's third-party tested, it's clean, it's made in the US, it's women-owned, and it has all the good ingredients for this. Now, there's benefits of it, so I just get excited and move right ahead of myself. Okay. And myo-inositol improves insulin sensitivity. Most women with PCOS deal with some degree of insulin resistance. It drives insulin levels high and worsens androgen levels. So myo-inositol acts as a secondary messenger for insulin, essentially helping the hormones speak to cells more effectively and leads to better glucose uptake and lowers circulating insulin. Okay. It balances hormones by decreasing insulin resistance. Myo-inositol directly decreases testosterone, androgen, leads to decreased symptoms of acne, hair loss, and unwanted hair growth. Myo-inositol also helps, is a really good supplement to help you sleep as well. Calms your system down. It supports ovulation, egg quality, regulates your sex hormones, FSH and LH, signaling to the ovaries, improving follicle development, egg. So you can see why this is such an impact, especially for someone who has PCOS.
So is that only for women, but men that have trouble sleeping, does it help them as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Yes.
would you mind putting that picture back up of?
No, not at all.
Thank
There
you.
go.
And does that only, that's not only for women on PCOS, can other women take it too? Is it helpful?
Yeah.
Or is
Yeah. It's just very powerful for, especially for people on PCOS.
Do you like this brand for other supplements too?
That's a good question. I'd have to look into it. I was looking specifically for myo and D-chiroinositol for them. But typically, if they're doing their due diligence by giving you a clean supplement that's bioavailable, because you don't want to just pee out your supplements, which is usually full of fillers, then they'll typically have other good. I found this brand on Amazon. It's only like $28 a month. It's not bad. Okay. This also helps with mood and metabolic health, which is why myo-inositol is good for sleep. It signals serotonin, dopamine in the brain, those centers. Okay. I'm gonna talk briefly about birth control. It can be sensitive. I don't pass judgment on people who want to take birth control. My biggest thing with birth control is that women are not educated on the trade-off to taking birth control, especially long term, and it wreaks havoc on the system. So before I get into all that, I do want to play a couple funny little videos that are just hilarious. I played this first one last year.
Love to get off birth control because I'd love to meet me, you know? I've heard that when you get off birth control, you're just like, has anyone in here gotten off of birth control? You have right here? Oh, a lot of us. Okay, all right. How did that go for you?
I broke up with my boyfriend.
You broke up with your boyfriend of 6 years. These are the stories I'm talking about. This is what I've heard about. You stop doing birth control and you don't.
Your sense of smell changes.
Your sense of smell changes. Oh my god, so wait, what did your ex-boyfriend smell like before when you were on birth control, and what did he smell like once you got off birth control? You're like, when I was on birth control, he smelled like my future, and when I got off, he smelled like the past.
That's so funny. I love that we have such humor about all the things of women, especially like the menopause, but it's also so true, because it's definitely alters your brain chemistry. This next video I found, this is like, it talks, she's mimicking the birth control commercials. It's hilarious.
Woman, I know a lot of things. I know what kind of candle is perfect for girls' night.
I know when it's time to be casual and when it's time to stand out. I know a good deal when I see one.
Hell yeah.
I know I couldn't do a cartwheel anymore, but I used to be able to. I know that guy is cheating on my friend, but I can't say anything. I have to wait for her to, because she's not at the point. But most of all, I know what kind of birth control is best for me. Me. Because I'm tough enough to know Puselxi is the only birth control that is certified tough girl approved. Puselxi is a thrice daily injection with only 10 side effects per minute. So go ahead and take some part. You can now. It's not some girly birth control. We're cool. People taking Puselxi should avoid swimming in chlorinated pools. Didn't expect me? Well, expect the unexpected. Expect women who are never expecting. Expect a boring birth control? Not anymore. Puselxi is not to be taken with or without water. Not take this medication if you know someone who has been pregnant or you know the definition of the word. Take back your life with Puselxi, because only you know.
Who resonates with that? I don't see that many birth control commercials anymore because I stream everything, but when I do, I'm like, they are like literally making it sound like I'm empowered with taking birth control, and I felt ashamed for not taking birth control when I saw the commercial, so I just thought that was hilarious. But birth control was the first medication approved for long-term use by healthy people. Okay, so that's so contradictory. It's like the first medication.
Love to get off birth control because I've learned a lot of things. I want to know when you get
Going. Hormones are going wacky. So for healthy people, then this really showed, when you look into birth control, this really showed the big pharma companies that they can get people to be on medication for a long time. This was that revealing to them with birth control, and then as you know, now we have high blood pressure medication for a long time, cholesterol medication for a long time, SSRIs, all the stuff that isn't managed or put on them and just refilling them for the rest of your life. But this showed them that they could put people on medication for long term. The history of birth control was started at Stanford. So there was a woman, her name's Catherine McCormick, she's with the McCormick family, and then the feminist activist Margaret Singer. And they were women, so at that time they couldn't get into a lab, so they had a man who was a scientist go into a lab to start forming up birth control. And as he started going through the process of forming this birth control pill to give women control of their system and whether or not they wanted to get pregnant, he came back and said there needs to be an area where you have put sugar pills in where there's a bleed so that a woman will feel in control of her body. But the problem with birth control, one of the problems with birth control is that when you have that sugar pill week, it is not a true cycle bleed. That is 95% is a withdrawal bleed, is what that is. And they know that. They don't tell you that. It's a withdrawal bleed into that sugar pill week. And because your ovulation cycle is completely turned off. You have these chemicals coming in, standing in for ovulation or not having it at all. So within that time of that 7 days of that sugar pill, that is not enough time for your body to be like, okay, we're done with that. Let me start working this process again and ovulating and then going through a cycle of shedding the lining. So it's a withdrawal bleed. That is what that is. So your sex hormones, that whole system, the HPA axis, it's turned off. And then not to mention that it also is a chemical, it just changes your brain chemistry. Okay, that changes your brain chemistry. Your ovarian system is down-regulated, and after many years, it eventually will just shut down. And that's why people find it, some, not all, a little harder to get pregnant after they have birth control. Or they have these symptoms that pop back up if they were put on birth control to take these symptoms away. And then so they're feeling like they're going through that same thing all over again. Essentially, birth control does increase inflammation. It increases oxidative stress. It can lead to cellular and tissue damage. And there's not enough research done to know how it impacts a woman's adaptation. So like how we adapt to stress, how we adapt to social situations across the board. There's not enough research done. So we don't know that it absolutely does. We do know that it absolutely does change brain chemistry. So generalizations cannot be made when considering birth control. If considering birth control, then just encourage your younger women friends or family to have a real conversation with what the trade-off is with going on birth control, what the safest one is gonna be, if that is something that they wanna do, because there's so many variables, and there's so many types of birth control out there now. But in 2024, there's research that they saw that with oral birth control, they saw changes in the amygdala. And I'll tell you, my daughter was probably 12 when the doctors tried to put her on birth control. Your brain is not fully developed at 12, and then you already have this chemical coming in, making changes or altering your amygdala, which is responsible for emotion and recognition and response. It's not even fully developed. So your amygdala is responsible for a number of processes: emotional, fear, anxiety, anger. It helps identify threats, trigger appropriate reactions such as fight or flight, emotional memory, social cognition, social interactions, ability to infer the intentions of others by their language, their gaze, their gestures, okay? It links emotions to many other brain abilities, especially learning and the senses. In the research, they saw the impact of the amygdala was reversible. This research was done on adult women. So according to them, it was, but they have no idea how it impacts the brain of young girls, and they just hand it out like candy. Yes.
So in the case of your daughter, knowing what you know, were you able to do it naturally?
Yes, yes. Well, this was a long time ago, and my kids were raised on very bad food. So that was the main issue. Like, she was having really painful periods. I didn't have painful periods. So at first I thought she was just trying to stay home and use it. But when I really started talking to her and seeing like how much distress she was in, it was related to inflammation from poor nutrition and hydration. So fixing those made a world of difference in her body for her. And then fortunately for me, she didn't take the birth control. I did at that time. I didn't know what I know now. I mean, we got the first month, but she wasn't a very good pill taker. So looking back, I was like thankful for that. But we did change. We changed a lot of stuff in our house from that. You know what you know, right? You try to do better when you do now. I was raised on microwave food, hot dogs and macaroni and cheese, and that translated into my parenting. So, but now they're both know a lot better, thank God. So my grandkids are being raised very clean. Something to know about the depot is at 2 years, if that depot is in your arm, wait, where do they put that now? Okay, we now won't be there, but if you have it for 2 years, you will experience bone marrow density loss.
Wow.
Okay, so that's at the 2-year mark, right? They're like, oh, now you're having bone marrow density loss. What's happening within the 2 years in that area? So it doesn't just one day start losing that. It is a buildup of toxin, something. So I saw a comedy the other day. She was like, "How's the depot?" And she's like, "When do we even stop it? No one knows. You're just on birth control. No conversation is after that." So, yeah, that's my thing on birth control. There's never any judgment, but it's like there's not enough education out there on what it's doing to your body. I'll be right with you.
So do you think the birth control has gotten worse over the years as opposed to those of us that took it in the 60s and early 70s?
I honestly, I'm not sure as far as like reactions in the body. I know it's handed out and prescribed way more than it was when it first came out in the 60s and 70s.
Because it's been just prescribed for other things like
Yeah.
acne and.
Yes.
Into the 90s.
In my former years, I worked in the medical field. I worked in cardiology.
I mean, I
and
don't
worked
have
in
any bone
dermatology.
density issues.
And I had young girls demanding their birth control because they didn't want them to get it on their face. And that's terrible. That's terrible, you know? So there's other ways to take care of acne. Yeah, no one wants it, especially when you're in that vulnerable age, but dang, trying something more holistic and taking care of nutrition and other things, and hydration, putting some stuff on your face to help manage that pH level on your face is the probably should be the first step.
Yeah, but now you take Accutane, they make you take birth control too.
Oh, yeah.
I just know
Accutane Accutane is for acne, and they make you take a pregnancy test. This is what we did in the office. And, cause if you're pregnant and you take Accutane, it will, yeah, it tears up the fetus.
My question, my daughter inherited my endometriosis, so they put her on the continuous birth control where she skipped the sugar.
Yeah.
So they have her on that for
Years and
long
years and
now,
years and years, yes.
so she doesn't even develop the period so that she can.
How old is she?
She's turned 20, so it's been a few years now already.
We can talk about that if you ever wanna know, things you could do for endo.
Okay.
But, so that's an example right there, so that's their answer is to have her on this continuous chemical input into the body that doesn't help her at all, just masking her symptoms.
So 48 years ago, when we get married, I read an article that said the people that developed birth control would absolutely not let their wives or kids take it. And that was good enough for me. But then when I told my doctor about 10 years ago, he goes, well, you shouldn't be reading the internet. And I said, the internet was not available.
That's funny.
When was your internet available?
Yeah, how'd you get that?
Wow, that would speak to me too. Here's the thing, imagine this. Imagine you being 12 years old and you start your cycle and you start learning about the fertility awareness method at that age. And how easy it would be by the time they decide to be sexually active, how they would have that down to their own science with their own body. Like you can only get pregnant, 3 to 4 days a month. Either abstain from sex for 4 days or, or get pregnant. But their fertility awareness method, if that were taught at a young woman's age, it would be just as easy as, it's easier than counting macros if you were taught at a 12-year-old age. So trying to figure out how many grams of protein do they need to eat to figure that out.
Right.
You can tell that irritates me because I'm always counting them. But that would be just amazing. So look at this, fasting for the cycle. So this is women that are having a cycle. And honestly, not every young woman needs to go into a fasting. They have significant, a young healthy woman has autophagy. A young healthy woman has turnover cellular components much faster than someone who's my age going into somewhere in menopause. But young women that have issues with their periods, that are overweight and maybe want to see some change, that have some nutritional issues, autoimmune issues, this is a good fasting schedule for them to be on. So, yes ma'am.
How do you fast for 72 hours?
So I was gonna talk about that, you work up to that, okay? You work up to
Yeah,
that.
start there.
No, and I hardly ever do, I think the most I'll do is from 36 hours. And if you think about it, what time is it right now? 10:28, so 36 hours. So 10:28 this morning to 10:28 tomorrow morning is 24 hours, to 10:28 that night is 36 hours. So that goes by fast, but 72 hours is a little more on the seasoned side of fasting. Okay, you're not gonna worry about that. But probably start out with 13 to 14 hours. So you wanna use your sleep for a good portion of your fasting. So if you're sleeping for 8 hours, great, that's 8 hours of fasting. Plus if you stop eating the day before around 5 o'clock into your sleep, so you're already starting, the minute you take your last bite, you start your fasting timer.
I woke up this morning starving.
Yeah.
So I feel like I could kill somebody.
So we're talking about stuff, ways to go around that.
It's a gradual buildup.
Yes.
To do that, you just don't start whole hog.
No, this person would probably need to fast for a new person, especially young. Like, that's what I'm saying, like young people need their food intake, but if they're battling with autoimmune issues, PCOS, endometriosis, hormone imbalance, fasting is going to help them 100% and stay off of the medication world. But this person would probably start at 13 hours. So if that person got 8 hours of sleep, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then wake up at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11. There's ways you can get around it if you're starving, and that is eating a full fat something that is healthy fats. So I eat Brazil nuts. There's a lot of women in here that do fast and they could share with you what they did if they needed to. I'll eat Brazil nuts or, what was the other thing? Oh, a piece of avocado with salt and pepper. Stuff like that will satiate you, but keep you in your ketosis, of where you're still getting the benefits of the fast. So, with that being said, okay, and then this is like the actual hours of a person that's new would do. So this is like stricter hours, so 13 hours, 15 hours, 17. And women, so research came out that's saying that you could do just a 16-hour fast every day, and that is for men. Women need to switch it up between 13, 16, 36-hour fast. And that with our hormones, depending if we have a cycle, we have to fast according to that cycle, feed that cycle, or whether we're on perimenopause and menopause, we still have to switch it up because we are supporting our body to make the hormones we need as we are in that menopause phase. Okay. So with these, estrogen loves fasting, so you want to fast. The longer fast, the better. It thrives when insulin is low. Testosterone is up with ovulation. So when you're ovulating, your testosterone is up. That increases your sex drive. So if you want to get pregnant, that's why. Studies show that intermittent fasting can greatly increase a man's testosterone levels, but no studies have been done on women. But the reading I did with Mindy Peltz and some other women, Stacy Sims, she's a doctor, that fast no longer than 15 hours in that ovulation window would probably be a good starting point. And then progesterone, most important time to avoid fasting is when you have your progesterone levels going up.
So you get to do your feasting.
Yeah, you can do your feasting and you can eat carbs and you can eat pasta, and it helps with your progesterone to lay down the lining that you need. Because progesterone prefers glucose to be higher, so you can eat more complex carbs like veggies, fruit, potato. That's why you crave what you crave at that time, like Taco Bell or donuts and cookies and Oreos. That's why you crave that, because your progesterone wants that sugar intake. The biggest thing with fasting is it makes you metabolically flexible and it supports your hormones. This was just so metabolic, I'll get to this chart in a minute. Metabolic flexibility is the name of the game. You have that much more naturally as you're a young woman. You can just switch back and forth to burning sugar and burning fat. You don't have as much fat typically. As we get older, metabolic flexibility is the name of the game, and that's why fasting is so powerful. So, gosh, with the autophagy and the cleaning up the cells and then making you metabolic flexible, and that means that you go from a sugar burner, which the majority of the US is all they do is burn sugar because they have an influx of food coming into their body all the time, to a fat burner where you're actually breaking down fat cells and using it for energy. Okay, that's what fat cells are for. So as you go through your fasting journey, you start to learn and see how you can fluctuate between burning fat when you're in a fasting ketosis cycle and then going into your days that you eat more carbs, and then you'll start to see like you indulge in things that you like to eat, like a donut or a cookie, and your body is able to manage that instead of pack it on. It's gonna burn it. Now exercising with the menstrual cycle, it's best to work out hard, hit PRs, lift those heavy weights during the follicular phase. Day 6 through 11, you have lots of energy. You feel like you're just gonna take on the world. As you go into that luteal stage, you'll want to bring down the intensity to talk to that in a minute. Bring down the intensity, and then the week before your period, you probably won't even want to feel like working out, but your body is going to want to have you like just bring it down as far as your energy goes. Your body's doing a lot of work down here, and you're taking it easy in other areas. Now, this is not straight across the board for everything and every woman. This is a generalization because some women might feel very energetic throughout their whole cycle. Well, go for it then. Lift those heavy weights. But generally, to support your cycle, this is how your exercise will want to be. But most of all, listen to your body. listen to how you're feeling and feed into that. Don't feel like you're a failure, especially if you're like most people that hard, loves to work out. It is part of your health weekly thing to do. If you need to take it down a notch and rest for a day, do that. That's going to benefit you more than forcing yourself to do a workout that your body is not ready to do. Now I want to lightly touch on sleep, just to let you know, on our YouTube, Maynard Family Chiropractic YouTube channel, we have a whole talk about sleep and slumber. It's a really good talk, really good. But I want to lightly touch on it because it's important. It's important for sleep. So women need anywhere from 8 to 10 hours of sleep. There's any seasons of your life, especially if you're fasting, where you'll feel like you don't need that much sleep, and that's fine. But typically, to regenerate, to rest, 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I had a man tell me that he said no, that women do not need 10 hours of sleep. And I was like, I tell you, sir, that I have slept 10 hours before. Because that was a season where I just needed to, it was a stressful time. So my body needed more time at night to regenerate. So yeah, you can have those hours. Now, Becca, I don't know if you're ever gonna get 10 hours of sleep right now. She's got 2 little kids. But that is a goal in a range, right? It's not a strict thing. Research shows that lack of quality sleep over time leads to shortened lifespan, and this is many years, okay? And it has significant impact on health. So, most important aspect of sleep is a cool room, a dark room, no screen. No screen at all. Now, we're gonna move on here, and we're gonna transition into our later season of life for women, okay? So, we see it all over as being portrayed as someone who has fully lost it, okay? When we go into menopause or perimenopause, and the world's getting better, it still has a long way to come, but early years, we're still over-medicated, we're still not given the answers we need and the tools and resources we need to navigate this season of our life. Because in the early years, those are where our hormones are flexible, our stress response is more flexible, more forgiving. And as we move into our 40s and beyond, or wherever that starts for a person or a woman, our conversation shifts, our mind needs to shift on how we're gonna treat our bodies. And our body's not breaking down, we are evolving. This is another transition time, just like puberty, just like pregnancy, just like postpartum. It's another transitional time, and it is where we have a new hormonal landscape, and we need to understand it in order to navigate it and have a confidence in our bodies and ourselves and be patient to figure that out. We are seen as illogical when you get into menopause, and wine drinkers, pill poppers, or stone-hearted witch, like all this stuff. And really, we're all here just trying to figure it out and support our bodies as we go through here. So I have some funny videos on this to show you guys. This first one is on that 70s show I grew up watching it. When she goes through menopause, they literally portray her as a alcoholic, pill popping loony.
You fix the damn clicker yet? What good is a clicker if it won't click? I don't give a good gosh darn what you eat.
Oh, geez, honey, I'm sorry.
Get out! Don't panic. You know what to do. I may have been a little irrational today. Shut up!
Good morning. I'm just waking up so refreshed, and I wanted to wish everyone a great day. You know, sometimes my night sweats wreak havoc with sleep, but last night was really restful. I only had to get up 2 times in the night to towel off. So that was a real blessing, and I only had one night terror. I had this nightmare that I was drowning, and I woke up screaming. So besides my jaw being a little tight, I feel really rested. So I'm gonna head downstairs and have some breakfast. I'm okay. I just got up a little too fast, and I cricked my back. I just need a minute Took me a few minutes to get downstairs, so I am really hungry this morning.
Life jacket on. Oh God. It's funny. I love watching the humor that surrounds it. It's just hilarious. But there's things we can do where we don't live like that, right? Here is a quote by an author. Now this guy profited off a book that this quote is from. It's called Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask. He was at the top of the charts for many, many years. Now, to be fair, this was early to mid 70s, but that wasn't that long ago, and the thinking has progressed since this quote, but it needs to progress a lot more. I mean, the fact that this was even thought and put into a book is disgusting. And so what it says is, once the ovaries stop, the very essence of being a woman stops. A postmenopausal woman comes as close as she can to being a man, not a real man, but no longer a functioning woman. With his comb over.
Okay, so my comment is, so your testosterone is dwindling as you age, so you are less
Of a man, thank you.
Yeah, I know, that's not fun. I mean, but that was the mentality, like just, we have a lot of health professionals doing a lot better for women, but I mean, so I went to a functional doctor. I just wanted to see where my hormones were at with all of my journey, right? And I got my blood drawn, and there's like 4 different estrogens in our body. One of them was low, my testosterone was a little low, and some other things. Oh, and I was in my gut healing journey, and so that was great information. But I also left this functional doctor with them wanting me to buy $800 worth of supplements. So here's the thing, supplements have their place, they do. I am one of under the thought, and we all have our personal journeys, is that I want to give my body the most I can holistically before going to a supplement. Or if I need a supplement, I want to see if it's a temporary thing I need to do or not. And these were long-term supplements. I felt like, man, am I trading from pharmaceuticals to a supplement? There just needs to be a balance. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like we need to equip our bodies with its own abilities to manage and navigate the seasons of life versus always depending on some pill or something to take. And so don't take that wrong. Supplements have their place. They're very good and they're a much better alternative than pharmacology. But our bodies are also very intelligent, and with consistent input of healthy lifestyle changes, it will respond. But stats on perimenopausal, 1.1 billion women worldwide are expected to experience menopause by 2025. And it goes on and on. Like, lasts 4 to 8 years, can last 10 years, 2 to 4 more times likely to experience depression with no prior history of depression. And that's fine. And usually it's temporary. It's just, again, we gotta equip ourselves with those tools to like get out of this or help our body get out of a depressive state. 10% of Japanese women experience hot flashes versus 80% of American women. Okay. Now, 5 to 7 years after menopause, women can lose up to 20% of their bone density. So, this is what's happening when we are getting older. Our estrogen acts locally outside of our outside of our ovaries. Okay. So yes, we do still have estrogen. It comes from other places. Our adrenals make more estrogen, those little guys on top of the kidneys, after menopause, and that's how it's supposed to be. But there's adrenal fatigue. So if you're going through your 20s and 30s of massive stress and you're wiping out your adrenals, are they going to be able to function when you're in this perimenopausal menopausal season? No, they're not. And that's what can catapult a bunch of stuff. And then there's main areas to improve on is rushing girl syndrome if you have it, DHEA production, and fat storage and fat burning. So fat storage versus fat burning. Now, rushing girl syndrome is basically just staying in that stress mode. And really what that comes into is just self-care. If you are in your 40s and 50s and you're in your menopause season and you're stressed consistently and chronically, it's going to take your body into fight or flight all the time. So the best thing to do is to prioritize yourself, adopt a workout schedule, take vacations, take downtime, and then get your oxytocin up and start managing that stress. We're always gonna have stress, we always are. There's never gonna be a time where we're not stressed, except for when we finally decide to go to heaven. But other than that, we need to be able to manage our stress and so that it doesn't harm us. It can help us versus harm us. Stress is there, there's good stress and there's bad stress, but we don't want it to interfere. DHEA is a precursor for making estrogen and androgens. It circulates through our body, it's a steroid, and it decreases as we age. You can supplement that. The best way to increase it though is to exercise and fast. Calorie restriction, which I put into the fasting category. So before we get into our fasting, I want to ask Betty, Cindy, and Pam to come up. I've asked these women to share their stories with you. After last year's talk, around this time last year, they implemented some lifestyle changes and saw a remarkable change in their overall health. So if you guys will come up here and share with all of us, and I get to hear it for the first time too, what your journey has looked like. Do you want to go first, Pam?
Okay.
Okay, so Pam sent me some pictures of what she looked like before. So these are Pam, and I'm gonna hand it over to you.
This was last January. I did Dr. Sarah's clinic in November. Went through the holidays. I'm like, I don't have time to read this book. I don't have time to make lifestyle changes. So the book sat on my nightstand. My friend Cindy was reading it, telling me about it. I was like, yeah, I'll get to it. So I go on this cruise. I'm eating everything inside, having so much fun. This is what I look like. I came back Saturday. While I was on the cruise, I swelled so badly I could hardly walk. My legs and feet, couldn't get shoes on. Looked horrible, felt horrible. So I went to my cardiologist on Monday. I weighed the most I had ever weighed in my life. So I immediately started reading the book. I did my first 2 fasts that week. I went back to the cardiologist the next Monday. I had lost 5 pounds. I was so inspired, and that was what started my fasting and weight loss journey. Before this, I had no hope. I thought, I can't lose this weight. It's just impossible. I had no energy, chronic pain. My diet was horrible. I drank coffee with cream and sugar every morning for breakfast. I was staying up till 2, 3 in the morning, going on shortage of sleep, seeing orthopedist, thought I was going to have knee replacement. I was hot all the time. My husband was always laughing. We'd have 2 settings on the thermostat, meat locker and Antarctica. always hot. My face was always flushed, rosacea. I was on gabapentin for nerve pain. I was on high blood pressure medication. So my legs swelled horribly. So with the cardiologist, it scared me so bad. And I started fasting. I did 2 fasts in that week, and I always mix up my fasts. I'll do like 24-hour, 18-hour. I think Dr. Pels calls it hermetic shocks. I always keep my body in hermetic shock. I got really interested in going to the gym, working with a trainer. My chronic pain decreased, lowered my dose of thyroid medication. I had tests a couple of weeks ago. I lowered my A1C. I'm no longer pre-diabetic. He is still a little worried about my cholesterol. When he put me on a statin, I'm like, no, thank you, not interested. So I'm doing walnuts, avocados, trying to get some healthy fats in my diet. With the fasting, I eat a lot of prebiotics, probiotics, fermented foods. I just eat cleaner, try and cut out the sugar, chemicals, less processed foods. Instead of drinking regular coffee, I drink mushroom coffee now. It doesn't taste like my coffee, great sugar. I put collagen, creatine, greens powder, cinnamon, and honey in my coffee. But it's still drinkable. When I'm fast, I don't drink coffee. I'm pretty much. When I first started fasting, I was always hungry, and I was eating cashews. I had read about the fat bombs, and I'm like, well, cashews are fat bombs, and I can eat them. So I did that probably about September. I plateaued, and I talked to Dr. Cameron. He's like, you've done the easy work. I had lost like 37 pounds because you've done the easy work. So I started doing HIIT training and walking. I'm walking with the weighted vest, trying to break through that plateau. And I pretty much have. I'm still losing weight now. And one really interesting thing, I was doing soft wave therapy on my knee with Dr. Cameron. And when I would come in fasting, if you once had the soft wave therapy,
Yeah,
it's like being beaten with the rubber band. And when you're inflamed and swollen anyway, like my knee, it hurts so bad. I mean, Danielle saw me. I'd be about to jump off the table. I'd come in fasting. I can't say no pain, but my pain was greatly reduced. He was just amazed. Like I said, my rosacea's gone. I don't get all flushed and hot and red face. I've just made a lot of small changes, eating less processed food, the mushroom coffee. I exchanged my sea salt for pink Himalayan salt. Just eat more fruits and vegetables. I'm learning to eat things I don't like. When you step out of your comfort zone and do things that you don't, it makes you stronger. So I take MCT oil, which does not taste good. I do it. I make this golden honey. It's honey with turmeric and ginger and a dash of black pepper. It's horrible, but I do it. I think it's helping with the inflammation. I'm walking 5Ks. I want to train for a 10K. I walk with the weighted vest. It's hard, but it's working. I feel like I'm losing inches now, even though I kind of have plateaued on my weight loss. I go to bed early. I get up early, where I used to stay up till 2 and 3 in the morning. I traded out my non-stick cookware for ceramic. I don't use my spatulas. I use a wooden spoon. I try to fast twice a week. Before I fast, I have a big protein meal, which just kind of helps with, the getting hangry and satiating. The longest I have fasted is 74 hours. It was hard, and it was just a water fast, and I think I lost about 3 pounds. Well, when I went on another cruise in September, and I gained 10 pounds on this cruise, and I came back and I did a 72-hour fast and lost it all. But basically, it's a lot of small changes add up to make a big difference. And I talk to people all the time about my fasting journey, and they're, oh, I can't go this long without eating, and have all these excuses. And my initial fasting experience, gosh, it was probably back in college, was a juice fast. And I had a horrible headache, so I was very resistant to trying this fasting journey. But, with Dr. Sarah's clinic, read the book, and it's just so inspiring. And when I'm really hungry, like my stomach's growling right now, and I think about that autophagy, autophagy, what it's called?
Autophagy, yes.
Yeah,
Or
that,
autophagy.
the cell cleanup, you have a flatter stomach, brain fog, almost gone. I feel so much more clear-headed, my skin's better, increased pain tolerance, just feel lighter, energized. But the best benefit to me is the fat loss. I lost 49 pounds. Yes,
The book is half off on Amazon right now.
What
If
is
you need to
it?
get a copy.
Fast
Fast like a
Betty
girl.
has it. She's good.
Fast like a girl by Manny Pence.
it was so interesting, so inspiring. Just talk about the cellular repair and just. I'm scared of cancer. I'm scared of diabetes. I don't worry about those things anymore. I got my A1C down. I try and do it, at least a few times. The 72-hour fast. Was it 33-day recovery fast? Gut reset.
Okay, I feel like a comment, you talked about wearing your weighted vest and how hard it is. You used to carry that weight around all the time.
Exactly.
So your weighted vest is nothing.
That's what my husband told me.
Yeah,
She
good
lost
point.
49 pounds, I do.
So what's the poundage of your weighted vest?
12 pounds.
That's a drop in the bucket to 49 that you've lost. Hello.
I've thought about trying 20. I might try one on the store. See what it feels like.
Walk around the store.
Shop with us.
That's what they say, go to the gym, do your housework, but I try and, if I'm not at the gym, I'm pretty much walking, just about every day.
Do you have a question for fans?
Did you say you just fast twice a day? I mean, twice a week?
But I always mix it up. I'll do like maybe an 18-hour and a 36-hour.
I'm just curious why you don't do it every day.
I get really hangry, not gonna lie. I keep a 3-year-old, so it's really not good to be hangry. I do try and spread out my eating though. There's a lot of times I'm like 15, 16, 17 hours without eating. Like yesterday at 4:30 and I haven't eaten this morning. So I do try and keep that autophagy. Try and keep that autophagy.
Yeah.
But basically, it's been a real growing experience this year. I learned to forgive people that have hurt me. I've been told by people that had, they say, you look like you lost 100 pounds. I said, well, I've lost 49 pounds. I've given up my anger. I've forgiven people who need to be forgiven. I've forgiven myself. I've learned how strong I am. I've learned to get out of my comfort zone and grow. I built stronger muscles, a stronger relationship with God. I learned a lot about myself. My mantra used to be, I'm so angry. And now my mantra is, I don't want to die young. I've got too much living to do.
Yeah, Pam and I are really good friends. First I want to say, we go to dinner about once a week. What was the first thing you always say?
I'm hungry.
No. Okay, my testimony is going to be a little different than hers. I want to go back. Oh, so you're going to pull up a picture of me.
It didn't come in.
Oh.
So I apologize, Cindy.
You can't get it.
That's Betty. She sent me a picture and I couldn't get it into my slideshow this morning, but she will show you if you want to see the change she made, because her before picture to now is just as drastic as Pam's and Betty, so it's very, very good testimony. I'm sorry I couldn't get it in here.
I'm kind of glad. Mine is like, okay. I was never overweight until my grandma passed away. I was extremely close to my grandma. My mom died young, 64. My grandma lived to be over 100, and I took care of her a lot. I even moved her to Tulsa. I was taking care of her twice a day, 7 days a week in the assisted living because they weren't doing a good job. But when she passed away, my girlfriends decided that I needed to eat because was stressed and grieving. I didn't need to eat, I needed to grieve. And I got to the highest weight in my life at that point, and I was not happy with myself, stopped the insanity. So let me give you guys an idea how hard. I have tried, before I read this book and started fasting, to lose weight. I started Jenny Craig. That was 3 meals a day, snacks, and snacks. I did Zumba. I was doing Zumba 2 and 3 times a week. I was giving it 110%. I was not losing weight. I joined Curves. They had a routine. They had a circuit, correct. I did that. And if the other ladies were just walking on it, I was jumping on it. I was really trying. I signed up for V-Shred, and I got the recipes, and I got the meal plans. Again, 3 meals a day and 3 snacks a day. Okay, you're gonna see in a minute here. That didn't work. So then I signed up and I did Noom. And you guys have heard about it. It's all psychology. There's no recipes, there's no nothing. But that didn't really help me. That wasn't helping me. I did learn one important thing, that I grew up in the 70s, and I'm part of the Clean Plate Club. Yeah, so here's an idea from Noom. Leave 5 bites on your plate. That's not easy for me to do when I really like what I'm eating, right? Okay, so then that wasn't helping, so I signed up for Nutrisystem. Guess what? 3 meals a day and snacks. See the common denominator here? Too much food. So then I bought the Eat Right for Your Blood Type, so that I could try to learn what my body needed. Yeah, vegetarian? No, I don't think so. So I started walking. Okay, COVID hit. I was going to the gym a lot. COVID hit. I didn't go to the gym. And then I was scared to go to the gym because I didn't want to get COVID. I started walking. I started walking in May of 2023. And I walk a lot now. I walk every day. I have an app on my phone. And we all need encouragement. And if I'm up to 8,000 steps a day. I did it almost every day. Walking the neighborhood, walking at Walmart, walking, if it's bad, I'll go to the mall. I do my best to get it in. I retired from my job at a CPA firm where I was sitting all day. Well, now I have a part-time job where I'm standing all day, so I get some of my steps there. But I do my best. I don't have a weighted vest yet. She's encouraging me to get a weighted vest. So I walk a lot. Well, I still wasn't losing weight, and I wasn't eating huge amounts of food. And so she gave the class, I bought the book. The one part in there that really got my attention